From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan. So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Now listen, Lavernius, shake a face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
We have top men working on it right now. Ooh, top men.
All right, welcome to the second hour, baby. Yeah! Thanks again to Rod Gray and Chris Hart. IQ Pitmaster, that would be Chris Hart. Pellet Envy Pitmaster, that would be Rod Gray. Talking about the Jack Daniels. Rod is looking to get that elusive hardware, and Chris Hart looking to perhaps do something that is even harder than get it the first time would be repeat. Smoke and Trigger's Johnny Trigg and Trish Trigg, only ones to actually win the Jack Daniels twice. And I believe there was 3 years separating win number one, win number two, maybe only 2 years. I had that info in front of me earlier today, but they're the only ones that have actually won it twice. So Chris would be able to win it twice, being the second team to ever do that, and then being the first team to actually go back to back. And that would be something that would be awesome as well. So in keeping with the Jack Daniels talk, we will go ahead and race over to the hotline and bring in site creator of a very awesome website out there, keeping track of all the scores of the teams out there in the barbecue competition world. Friend of the show, Chad Thompson, joining us here. Chad, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Chad, and certainly appreciate you taking time out for the show tonight. Certainly it's been quite a while since we've actually hooked up and done this. I don't know if we've done it on the show live before here or not, but we had kind of a regular thing just when we were doing the podcast show a few years back. And for the people that might not be familiar with National Barbecue Rankings, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the site and how your scoring system works versus going to, let's say, a KCBS or an MBN site and getting their Team of the Year type scores.
All right, so the main difference is kind of exactly that KCBS, MBN, GBA, FBA, they all run a Team of the Year, so it's the best team for that year. The thing that National Barbecue Rankings does is we take results from KCBS, FBA, GBA, MBN, and now Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association events and compare, everyone earns points for a top 10 finish in any category or the overall. And then those points are calculated over a 104-week rolling period or rolling calendar. So we're taking really the last 2 years of results for all those sanctioning bodies, and contests that happened more recently count more than a contest that happened 2 years ago. And then there's a couple bonus events. The Jack Daniels is a bonus event. The American Royal Invitational is a bonus event. And there's a couple others. The North Little Rock Big Money contest is a bonus event. But that way you can compare how everybody does across sanctioning bodies. So I know, especially in the South, we have a lot of teams who'll cook FBA or GBA or Memphis or KCBS. So you get a chance to compare all those teams on the same playing field. Every contest counts the same, and it's not just for that 1 year. So that's kind of the main difference, is that it's more of a running ranking versus trying to calculate or build up towards one final ranking at the end of the year.
Chad Thompson from National Barbecue Rankings and the website nationalbbqrankings.com if you want to go check it out. So if a team does really well over the course of 2 years, and then all of a sudden they decide to cut the competitions in half or in a quarter, is it going to take longer for them to fall out of the rankings because of how well they've done over a 2-year period, or how are you able to gauge, who's really out there doing it now and who might be not doing as much as they did a year and a half ago?
Well, if you have a solid run, and it takes a solid run for really to be considered a top 50 team, you probably need somewhere between $6 and $8 grand in a 2-year period to earn enough points to be at that level. Like a Pellet Envy and Bubba Q are currently number 1 and number 2 and are pretty close. And on a given weekend, Bubba Q might win $1 grand and Rod third or fourth, or also $1 grand, and they're really trading back and forth right now. If a team were to drop out and say Pellet Envy has a change of plans, and this did happen to Lotta Bull. So when I first started doing it in 2006, Lotta Bull was the number 1 team, but they won the TV show, and they did a lot of sponsors and cooking overseas and classes and things like that, and they weren't really cooking contests. And they've fallen back to, I think they're 11th this week, but they've also come back on cooking. But they were falling pretty steadily. Swamp Boys, Jack's Old South have kind of cut back on their competing and have fallen back. If you still compete every once in a while and you can still win $1 grand, that's still going to keep you at the top. If you have a good number of points and you can still win $1 grand every few months, which is easier said than done for some of us. Winning $1 grand is pretty difficult to come by for most teams. But for the top teams, if they can get out and win $1 grand every once in a while, they're not going to be the number 1 team or maybe even in the top 10, but they can stay up there. But it will take you a while to kind of work your way out of it.
Am I giving the website out correctly, Chad? Is it nationalbbqrankings.com?
It is, but right now we're having some technical issues, so it may not be loading for you.
Oh, okay. So all of the instant messages I'm getting right now going, you're giving out the wrong website is not right. If it's just not up right now.
Yeah, so nationalbbqrankings.com. Yeah, it's right when I got home from dinner, I noticed that it was down, and we've been working on it to try and get it back up. And I was like, I can't believe, especially like you said, we've had some issues trying to get together, and then it's been fine all day.
Well, there you go. That's what live. I mean, you have issues. I had issues the front part of the show, so just must be one of those internet things and computer things that are going around the country today. So again, we're talking with Chad Thompson. He's the founder of National Barbecue Rankings. That website, when it's up and running, is nationalbbqrankings.com, and he's working feverishly on rectifying that situation. Chad, so we have a huge event coming up here in roughly a week and a half, that being the Jack Daniel's World Championship Barbecue Cook-Off. First of all, as someone who is a fan of barbecue like yourself, someone who competes like yourself, what's your take on the Jack Daniel's as somebody who might not be as into it as much as some of the teams that are out there doing it every weekend, and their goal is to get to the Jack? What's your take on the Jack from a website blogger's perspective and from somebody that does compete from time to time?
Well, it's a special contest, and I think that covers a lot of it. The judging's special, the categories are special, the teams are special. It's just different than, especially if you cook a lot of KCBS, that's a different contest. It's, I think you talked about it with Chris. It's 7 pieces. It's white meat. The judges are, certified maybe on Friday. Like you said, there's some magazine writers and that type of person judging. But it's the way they pick the teams is different. I mean, it's everything about it is just a little different. I don't know that it's without question the biggest prize in barbecue, not necessarily the most money or anything, but that's the goal. If you cook competition barbecue, the Jack Daniel's is the goal. Now, I mean, we just had the American Royal. You could say that the American Royal Invitational has got better teams than the Jack Daniel's. The North Little Rock contest will draw better teams than the Jack Daniel's. But that said, the Jack Daniels is still something special.
Something that everybody seems to want, as you said, somebody that is in competition barbecue. It's always talked about, wanting to get down there, wanting to win it. So you have obviously the list of people that are going to be taking place or at least competing for their chance to win. I'm looking at a list here myself, and there's probably a decent, and I guess it's at least fair to say that every team that is in here has at least won one state qualifying competition, because that's one of the requirements, is you have to win a state qualifier in order to get put in the hopper for your opportunity to be picked. So technically, everybody here is a winner, where if you would go somewhere over the course of any given weekend, you might be going up against people that haven't won anything. That being said, some of these are first-timers. Some of these people are only doing 1 or 2 or 3 competitions a year versus, some of the other bigger names loaded into this list that are out there really humping every weekend. As you look at the list, Chris, or I'm sorry, Chad, are there any names that really pop out at you as ones that you would think would have a better shot at winning than some of the other ones listed?
Well, the obvious one, you just had 2 of them, Pellet Envy and IQ, Chris Hart and Rod. Chris has done it before. Like you said, I think he's been every year since 2002. And for a team, I think people, maybe not so much anymore, but obviously Chris is from Massachusetts. That New England barbecue scene is still relatively new. But him and I Smell Smoke and some of those New England teams have proven that they can travel anywhere in the country and win. And obviously IQ has proven that they can go to the Jack Daniels and win. Pellet Envy is the number 1 team in the country. They have proven that they can win anywhere on any weekend. They win big money contests consistently. Pellet Envy took the Grand at North Little Rock. He's currently running a streak of 6 straight contests with a top 10 finish, and he's just consistent. Every single weekend he's going to be in the running. He's not having a bad weekend. Brisket's not bombing for Rod Gray. He's going to be there. For IQ, currently number 35. They're the reigning world champion. They've got a lot of experience. Like you said, there's a lot of first-time teams to the Jack this year. There's a lot of guys who maybe don't cook that much. IQ has the experience of cooking in that big-time stage. So I got to think that those are two teams that are – I wouldn't say IQ's got 100%, and I wouldn't say Pellet Envy's got 20%, but somewhere in between. If I could take IQ and Pellet Envy versus the field, I'd probably take those 2 versus the field. Those are 2 really solid teams who really know how to cook barbecue.
Chad Thompson from National Barbecue Rankings joining us here, breaking down the Jack Daniels field, doing a little handicapping. Some of the other teams that I look at that I'm seeing, and I want to, of course, give a special mention because he's very big on the mojos, Melissa Cookston and Team Yazoo's Delta Q. Look, they've been having a very good year. Obviously, this is a team more acclimated to the Memphis Barbecue Network style of cooking. That's where they do a lot of their winning at. They've been Team of the Year over there a number of times, currently ranked number 1 in MBN. They get out to some other sanctioning body events and seem to do pretty well in there as, just as they would at an MBN event. What are your thoughts on their chances? Is it still something that the process or the event might be a little new to them as far as what they're going to be preparing versus what they're used to cooking?
If Whole Hog was on the menu, they're the favorite. She's the best whole hog cook in the country right now, regardless of what Myra Mixon's doing. She's the best. And she's got the world championship. She is the current world champion, and she won it with a hog. She's the best going. I'm a little surprised that she was beaten at hog on the TV show, but making it to the finals of that, if they were able to add a top 5 Jack Daniels to the season with the Memphis in May with the TV show and then the Jack, that might be one of the best barbecue seasons anybody's ever had. So I got to think, if you're cooking barbecue, they've got a pretty good shot. But I would think that some of the teams who are a little more seasoned at the KCBS have a better shot. Lotta Bull comes to mind as someone who probably has a little better shot at winning the Jack than they do, just because of the experience with KCBS. And I know it's just slightly different, but it's KCBS given the judging class, and it's KCBS kind of boxes, and I think they're a little outside of their norm, and it would be tough for them. But that being said, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, certainly, Melissa's not one you're going to want to bet against if you have some extra money to put out there. One of the other teams jumping out at me right now, actually two, as far as automatics are concerned, Rhythm and Q out of Arizona with 7 wins this year, so automatically qualifying for that. And then, of course, the team that's leading the points race for Team of the Year in the KCBS, Mike Wozniak of QOW. What do you think about those two teams?
Well, Rhythm and Q is, I couldn't love them anymore. They cook on Weber's. They're from out west, but they have proven that they can get. They went and won the Sam's Club Invitational, with all those Kansas and Missouri teams, and cooking in the middle of the country. And they took their Weber's out there and they beat them all. And they beat them all in their home turf, and that says a lot. When you're from out west or you're from the South or wherever. If you're not from Kansas or Missouri, and you can go into Kansas or you can go into Missouri and take one of those contests from those guys cook a lot. All of them are tough to beat, and it says something to be able to go in there and beat them. So Rhythm and Q, 7 grands already this year. A great team. I can't help but love somebody who can cook that high a level on Weber's. They're cooking on backyard equipment, and that's. I think that's great. QOW, I think they crushed everybody for the Kingsford Cup points.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it was even close. It was kind of set up for them or a team like them that could travel and compete. The guy cooks. I think QOW's currently number 3 or 4. He cooks anywhere. He cooks against anybody, and he wins. And that's, QOW's one of the few national teams that really competes everywhere, and isn't afraid to hop in the RV and hit the road. Pellet Envy's like that. A lot of bull competes around the country, but QOW, they'll compete in Michigan or Florida or wherever, and they're good. So the automatic qualifiers have to be the favorites. Those are the teams that didn't need luck to get into the Jack Daniels, and there's only a handful of them. They won their way in, which isn't to say that the other teams didn't win their way in, but they also need a little luck. Those, QOW, Rhythm and Q, Pellet Envy, IQ, they all won their way in. So any of those teams would be hard to bet against. I know there was one other automatic qualifier, but I can't remember who it was right now. But any of the automatic qualifiers are great teams.
Chad Thompson from National Barbecue Rankings joining us here on the show, breaking down the Jack Daniels field. A couple other teams that I wanted to get your opinion on. Sweet Peppers is a team out of New Mexico, I believe, and they seem to do pretty well every year, and also a team out of Iowa, which seems to be a new hotbed for competition barbecue teams, that being Tippy Canoe Barbecue. Thoughts on those two teams?
Tippy Canoe has definitely caught my eye recently. I don't know much about them. But I've definitely noticed them climbing up the rankings pretty quickly. I wasn't aware that they were from Iowa until I think Chris Hart mentioned it previously. Iowa, has come along I don't know where it came from. But there's some serious barbecue getting cooked in Iowa. So those guys are doing a great job. And Sweet Peppers does well. They don't just do well when it's the Arizona, New Mexico, California teams competing. They do well when the national teams are competing. And not that California, I mean, obviously would Slap Your Daddy and Rhythm and Q and 155 and those kind of teams out there. There's some quality barbecue teams, but the ones that can travel and compete on the national stage, it's really impressive. Because it seems like they don't have the history and tradition, but they're still able to cook a very high level. So Sweet Peppers has been impressive. They've had good showings at the American Royal in years past. So I mean, they're definitely a very good barbecue team. They don't compete quite as much as some of the other teams, so they don't earn the number of points. Maybe they're not quite as highly ranked but they can still cook some good barbecue.
We look through the contestant state-named teams. There's really some outstanding competition teams that are listed there. You have, as you had mentioned before, Mike Davis with Lot of Bull from Tennessee, and then you have Parrot Head. Well, that's the state that got him in. But then you have South Dakota Parrot Head Smokers, who John Nilgis, who is doing very well, Team of the Year standings for Kansas City Barbecue Society. Of course, you have Tuffy Stone with Cool Smoke. And you have, where did he go? Little Pigtown. And who was the other guy up there that I was just looking at? Cool Smoke. Robert McGee at Munchin' Hogs at the Hilton. I mean, these are all teams that are either right in the top 10, top 15 of the Kansas City Barbecue Society, so they're all doing well this year. And a number of those teams have been doing very well over the last 3, 5, 6 years. Any of those teams jumping out at you as somebody that's got a really good shot at taking it all here?
Well, I mean, Tuffy and Cool Smoke is a great team. And when I was pulling some information and doing just a little research before I came on, I noticed that in the last year, Tuffy hasn't finished outside the top 10 in the overall. If he's competed, he's finished in the top 10. And there wasn't another team that I looked at that could say that. Everybody, if it was Pellet Envy or Lot of Bull, Munchin' Hogs, they all had a couple contests where they finished in the 20s or so. And it happens. You bomb a category, maybe your brisket didn't turn out, but that doesn't happen to Tuffy. And for someone to be that consistent in a competition, barbecue is about consistency, and all these teams who win a lot are very consistent. But to be even more consistent than people, than the consistent people is something else. He's the current world champion in shoulders. Last year he was 8th at the Jack, so he's got experience. He knows what it takes to win. So it would be tough to go against Tuffy. Also, I mean, but Munchin' Hogs, they're another consistent team. 16 straight top 10s, including 3 grands and 4 reserve grands. They mostly compete in that tough Missouri, Kansas area. They're every single weekend. They're competing against some of the best cooks in the country, and they're competing with those teams and consistently winning. So, I don't know a whole lot about Munchin' Hogs, but I know they win. And then Parrot Head, they seem to be crushing it this summer. It seems I thought that maybe he had retired, or maybe that's just the running joke. He was 5th at last year's Jack, so he actually did better than Tuffy did last year. He's currently the number 7 team in the country for the National Barbecue Rankings. And again, just another cook that cooks. He cooks in a slightly different part of the country, like you said, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa. Though he's cooking against very stiff competition, and he wins. I mean, to be a top 10 team for the National Barbecue Rankings, you got to have probably 10 grands in the last 2 years, and he's got them. So Munchin' Hogs, Parrot Heads, Cool Smoke. I mean, it's a very good field this year at the Jack. The cream has definitely risen to the top, and it's going to be tough to win this year.
I was going to say, as I was looking over the list compared to some of the rosters from years past. This really does seem to have quite a bit of talent with a lot of top teams that are actually in here and going to be able to take part in this event here next weekend. So, Chad, you've pulled all the information. You're an expert in rankings, and we have you on here to handicap because the Centralites are degenerate gamblers, and they're looking to get down. So if they're looking to throw money down, I need your stone-cold lead pipe lock for who you think is going to be pulling out as grand champion next weekend.
It's tough. I would probably take Mike Davis with a lot of bull. He's just won the American Royal Open. He's really come on strong recently. He's had he's got back-to-back grands the last 2 weekends out. He was top 20 in the Invitational at the American Royal. He won the Open, I believe, for the 4th time. He's got 5 top 3s in his last 6 contests. And that was after, he went almost a full year without a grand from June of 2009 to May of 2010. He didn't have a grand. He was, like I said earlier, I think, he was doing more kind of appearance and class stuff than he was competing. And he didn't have any grands, but he's definitely back on track. He's got 4 since May of this year. Like I said, back-to-back ones. So I think he's hot right now. He's cooking good barbecue, and I think he's the team to beat.
All right, there he is. This is Chad Thompson from National Barbecue Rankings, and again, the website nationalbbqranking.com, and his pick to win the Jack Daniels this year is Mike Davis from Lotta Bull Barbecue. So we'll see how that turns out. Chad, I appreciate you coming on tonight and breaking down the field, and we'll look for you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, take care. There he is, Chad Thompson. New daddy, Chad. Congratulations on the baby, by the way. We had Chad lined up last week, but I had to bump him for American Royal winners, of course. And the week before, we had him lined up, and him and his wife went ahead and had a baby. So, new Centralite is in the making, of course. I'm sure he's got the little baby right there by the computer speakers listening to the show. So, there you go. That's who he thinks. I would love to see Chris Hart repeat, but I think that's going to be too tough. I think given the amount of discrepancy that's going to be at the judging table, if there was any type of consistency from year to year over there in Lynchburg or down there for me in Lynchburg, I would say that there's probably an outside shot that he has a chance at repeating, but I couldn't possibly put good money on that. I do think Melissa Cookston is having an exceptional year, as she has had many years in the past, and she would definitely be somebody that I would put some money in. She's a very big-time player. When the heat is on, she really raises the game up. So I would definitely put a wheel bet on her. Rod Gray, of course, is going to be a perennial favorite to win this event. Oh, it is a really good field. There's probably 6 or 7 people out here that I would go ahead and lay money on. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Mike Wozniak from QWOW. That's who I think is going to win because he's really been on quite a run here as of late. And I think this happens to carry over for him in Lynchburg. So we'll see. That's my pick. What are your picks? I'm interested to hear. You can email in your picks if you want. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. I tell you what, if Harry Sue made it in from Slap Yo Daddy, I would probably pick him. He's really running quite a hot streak. He won again last week. And by the way, you don't believe in the Barbecue Central radio show karma? Shame on you. Just go ahead and ask Mike Davis from Laudable Barbecue. He won the American Royal the previous weekend, and then I had him on the show Wednesday. He turned around the following weekend, just this past weekend in Metropolis, Illinois. Guess what? Grand champion. Karma, bitches. Karma. All right, now I'm going to get to my last interview of the night, and we will pull him up. Let's see. Hey, look, people are interested. I had heard from a number of people over the course of the American Royal. By the way, Danielle Domofsky of DVQ weighing in with her pick. She's putting money on Rod Gray of Pellet Envy or Mike Wozniak from QOW. So there's Danielle's picks. D, thanks for weighing in. As I was saying, technology rapidly changing, and of course, I would love to be out in the midst of these great competitions, especially at the American Royal, and of course, coming up next weekend, the Jack Daniels World Championship Cook-Off. And people want the insight. People want to know what's happening there live and direct. And my next guest is part of a website that would actually did that at the American Royal. So we'll go ahead and race over to the hotline, bring in Wired BBQ Phil Costanzo. Phil, how are you tonight, buddy?
Hey, good, Greg. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm sorry I'm running a little late here, but I ran into tragic technical difficulties on the front end, and I'm playing catch-up all the way here until 11 o'clock here. So I appreciate you taking time out to join me tonight. Before we get into what you guys are going to be doing down at the Jack, why don't you give us a little insight into Wired BBQ and what you guys are all about and what you're looking to do?
Well, Wired BBQ started about 10 years ago in 2000. It's the brainchild of Dave Baldine. And he decided he wanted to bring the excitement and fun of the barbecue culture to a wider audience. And originally this started off as him recording the event, posting it online on his website. And as the technology has grown and given us the ability to do live webcasts, we've decided to move in that direction. We did the American Royal and got a great response from it, especially from the Barbecue Brethren, and they've given us a lot of support since then.
Phil Costanzo joining us here, Wired BBQ, and by the way, the website, wiredbbq.com, if you want to go check that out. So when you got to the American Royal, how were you actually, because I'm kind of a tech geek, and of course I don't want to blow anybody's head up here with the amount of technology that goes into all this stuff, but what kind of a platform are you using, and when you're doing it live, how are you actually shooting the video live?
Well, we've got our camera hooked up to a laptop that is broadcasting back out to Ustream, and we then have another 4 to 5 laptops set up at our base station that control the feed going back up to it. And this gives us the ability to not only present the event live, but we're also able to, if something happens, because technology is not perfect at this time, and we do have times when it goes down, this gives us the ability to switch back to a static camera that's somewhere else within the event so that we're still able to keep the live stream going.
So when you're at a live event, for instance, at the American Royal, what was the concept or the vision heading down there? What did you want to cover, and what were the main items during that weekend that you wanted to hit and show the rest of the country as they tuned in?
Well, the big thing we want to show, aside from the excitement of what goes on at these events and the great cooking, we want to get the teams, because that's the major feedback we've gotten over the years is that people want to see the teams that have worked so hard to get where they're at, because this isn't something that you can just walk into in most cases, although the Royal Open is different. Anybody can go to that. But as far as the invitationals go, these people work hard to get there, and people want to hear their stories and see what they've done and how long they've been doing it. And we interviewed a lot of people who, a lot of different teams who have been doing this since the beginning. They've been there for 20 plus years every year. And that's just great to see that kind of dedication to this event. And that's one of our main goals, is to bring the people behind the teams and their stories out. And, of course, also to cover the award events, because that's obviously a very big deal for a lot of people to know who won.
Now, when you're doing the awards, for instance, and you have your camera, you have your laptop, are you relying on a wireless internet connection to pitch that signal back?
We are, and that does get a little dicey sometimes, but we do our best. We've got a great tech support team through Icon IT Solutions, and so far they've been able to pull this off without too many hitches. We had a couple incidences during the Royal that we have to go back and see and tweak the way we did it to see if we can get better connections, as well as fix some of the audio issues that we had last time. That a lot of that came from the fact that during the American Royal we had about a month's time to plan it out, and so during that time we did the best we could, and we learned a lot during the event on things we will need to do next time and bring the audio in a lot clearer.
I think people are emailing me quite a bit, wondering with the technology when I'll actually be getting out and doing some live broadcasts from some of these bigger events. And my biggest issue, or the biggest reason that I don't want to do it right now, is that I can't rely on a wireless card, because as soon as that thing goes down, then my live broadcast goes down with it. I'm sure it's the same thing for you. So I almost have to have that hardwire internet connection for me to actually be able to commit somebody to go down. But at least you're having some type of success, or at least a lot more success than technical difficulties with the air cards at this point.
So far, it's been good. We, as I said, we did have a couple of occasions out at the Royal where we did lose signal and we had to switch back to our static cam. Excuse me. The static cams and the base station also are on a wireless network. If it's available at the locations, we will hardwire in at the base station, but so far we found that that's not exactly feasible. If there's a Wi-Fi connection there, that helps out as well. It's sort of a backup that we can go on to. And we were lucky at the Royal. They did have Wi-Fi available for us, and that helped us in some of the cases. But for the most part, we relied totally on the air cards. And it's been somewhat successful. I mean, there are some hiccups, and I think that as more providers start rolling out their higher levels of wireless, the 4G networks on Sprint and Verizon, this will enable us to bring a better and clearer live shot to everybody.
Phil Costanzo from Wired Barbecue joining us. And again, the website, wiredbbq.com. So as we look forward to next weekend, Phil, we have the Jack Daniels, the World Championship Barbecue Cook-Off. Not in a, let's call it, very metropolis-type setting. Are you concerned at all with a lack of coverage down there with the air cards?
We are. We've reviewed the coverage maps that they provide, which are not always as accurate as we would hope.
Right.
But we are working with the Jack Daniels event coordinators to see if we can get some additional support there either through their Wi-Fi network, or we've requested a couple of carriers to bring out their mobile towers to boost the signal as well. So we're hoping that's going to pan out for us.
Now, as far as what you want to be covering there, is it going to be, again, same type of idea as far as what you're looking to get across to the live audience at the Jack as you did with the American Royal, or are there some other aspects that you're hoping to capture because of the mystique and the mystery and this whole lore that goes along with the Jack Daniels versus a lot of the other competitions out there?
Well, there's 15 international teams that are going to be there, and we would love to cover those. We got a great response internationally from the British Barbecue Society when they were here at the Royal. They loved the fact that their families could tune in and actually see them in action. So we definitely want to cover them. And then there's another 62 domestic teams that are going to be there. Some of, I believe, about 9 that we've interviewed at the Royal that we definitely want to catch back up to. We've lined up an interview with the 2010 American Royal champion, Mike Davis, as well as the featured judge, Paul Kirk. So we're hoping to catch up with both of those guys either Friday or Saturday, depending on their schedules. But otherwise, we want to also try to get in to the event Friday night. I understand they almost do a Mardi Gras, minus the alcohol, obviously, but they do a Mardi Gras type event there on Friday nights where they bring all the teams up the hill and toss beads to the crowd and all that good stuff. And we definitely want to try and catch some of that.
When will you guys actually be hitting the air? What time?
We plan on being live at 10 a.m. Friday. That will be October 22nd. And we will probably broadcast throughout the day on and off depending on the events that are going on, and keep that going until, I believe they say they shut down around 5 or 6, and then they go to the party, and we're going to try and cover some of the party. And then we'll be back on the air by 10 a.m. Saturday.
Are you looking to get in kind of like a roaming camera, if you will, with a guy and a camera around, see if you can just kind of poke into camps, or is that something that you guys aren't keen on doing?
No, that's actually what we did for the American Royal, and I think what gave us such a great response from a lot of the fans that were able to tune in and watch it was not only did they get to see the event, but they got to see the different teams in action, and we think that's important. A lot of the feedback we've gotten from the people who viewed the webcast was they love the fact that we're in there actually talking to the people of the team and getting their stories and presenting that, where they feel most media, local TV stations, they kind of skip over that. All they're interested in is coming out, videoing the party, and then they leave. They don't want to hear what anybody has to say, how hard they've worked. So we're trying to focus on the barbecue community and bringing them what they want. We're aiming in the direction of a interactive media here, and in that we have chat rooms set up for people who are viewing the program. They can go ahead and chat with our tech support team, who can then relay information on to the cameraman. So we found a lot of things in the Royal that maybe they thought that we weren't spending enough time with certain things, so we tried to go back and make sure we were doing that, and just to give the viewers what they want to see. A lot of times there are people who wish they could be there, maybe they didn't make the event, or maybe they can't afford to go to the event, and we'd like to bring that to them at home.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to tuning in Friday and Saturday myself. And again, this is Phil Costanzo, and he is with Wired BBQ, and the website is wiredbbq.com if you can't make it out to the Jack Daniels, and this is certainly going to be the next best thing. Phil, of course, we wish you nothing but a lot of luck and success, especially for coverage over there. And if there's anybody that you're looking to get into specifically barbecue team-wise, feel free to drop me a line off air, and I'll go ahead and make any introductions that I might be able to do for you guys. And again, good luck on that, and we'll be waiting to see how it all turns out for you.
Well, Greg, we really appreciate you having us on the show, and we'd like to give a special thanks out to Tom Emery for helping us out and being supportive and introducing us to you. It was great.
Yeah, I appreciate your time tonight, Phil. Good luck.
Thanks, sir.
Take care. There he is, Phil Costanzo, wiredbbq.com. Yeah, I mean, interactive television is what it's all about through the internet. You want to see somebody, you message these guys, and they'll take their cameras and go stick it in somebody's face. Doesn't get any better than that. All right, look, I have some stuff that I want to give away. Anybody like free stuff? Hell yeah, you do. 877-448-0433. 877-448-0433, and we will go ahead and blow out the proverbial prize closet. Go ahead and get a pen and a piece of paper. We have elk rub from Easy Hooks. We have the frog mats El Capitan, which is one of my all-time personal favorites. It's one of my all-time personal favorites. El Capitan, we have the green leaf barbecue, Oakwood products. And, of course, the Cosmos Q injection or soak. Your choice, a pork or a beef injection. You can also grab up a pork or a chicken soak. And the chicken soak is very popular. A lot of teams on the competition circuit using that. A lot of people that are backyard chefs, as myself is. Outstanding English right there. Backyard chefs like myself use the chicken soak as well. Again, got to try that pork soak. So if you're interested in getting some free stuff, I will gladly hang on for the next 8 minutes or so. 877-448-0433. Or if you want to call in and call your shot for Jack Daniels, who you think is going to be walking away with the championship this year. I'm going to go with Mike Wozniak. I think I owe a special apology to Mike and to my guest from last week, Fast Eddie. It was brought to my attention by people that have nothing better to do than evaluate how I'm saying last names and then know that I'm saying them wrong. Get that big stuff out of here. To send me a letter via email to alert my attention to the mispronunciations. Now, a lesser man might take offense to that. Might think, well, who are you, sir, to tell me that I'm saying their name? Maybe they're saying their name wrongs. Wrongs? So I made sure I double and triple checked my sources. Namely, I reached out to both of the people. And I found that I was saying Ed's last name wrong. I was saying Ed Morin. It's actually Ed Marin, M-A, well, I'm not going to spell it. But it's Ed Marin. And it's not Mike Woe, like Woe, horsey. It's Mike Wozniak. It's actually Mike Wozniak. Now, Ed's last name, I guess I could I mean, if you read it the way it's spelled, I mean, to me, it's Morin. I don't what do you want me to tell you? But Mike Wozniak, I mean, it's W-O-Z. I don't understand. And look, I'm the guy with the worst last name ever on the face of the earth. Nobody says my last name right. That's why I'm empathetic to the fact that I always want to make sure that I'm getting last names right, because nobody ever gets mine right at all, ever. So, that being said, it's not Mike Wozniak, it's Mike Wozniak, like the Wizard of Woz. The Wizard of Woz, baby. And it's not Ed Morin, it's Ed Marin, like M-A-H-R-I-N, Marin. That I've done my job. I've educated you, the Centralites, in the proper saying of two pitmasters, very successful in their own right, by the way. All right. No winners? Fine, I'm out of here. I'm going to get out. But first, I'm going to thank my guests tonight. The tragically, technically confused first hour Jack Daniels Roundtable with reigning champion Chris Hart from IQ. IQbarbecue.com is his website. Also, Rod Gray from Pellet Envy sat in on that. PelletEnvy.com. He's also sponsored by Greased Lightning and Easy Grill. Second hour, Chad Thompson from National BBQ Rankings. And that website, if it's working, is nationalbbqrankings.com. I'm sure the traffic from this site just downed it after we mentioned it once. And my last segment guest was Phil Costanzo from Wired BBQ. Wired Barbecue is going to be down at the Jack Daniels doing live web streaming video of that whole event starting the 22nd, which is a Friday, and going through Saturday, which is the 23rd. So be sure to stay tuned for that next weekend. WiredBBQ.com is that website. All right, we're going to bust out, and we'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.